What's going on, guys? It's Kito, and today we're going to do a new series called Naruto-Arena Character Showcase. So basically, it's where I take one of my custom characters and I just show it off, I explain it, and, give an example of something I've created that, we'd love, or I'd love, maybe you guys would love too, who knows, to see in-game. So today we're going to start with Mangetsu Hozuki Reanimated. This is personally my favorite character I've ever created. Yeah, he's the brother of Sogetsu, and he's mastered all the seven swordsman swords. So let's just start off with skill 1, Hydrification Absorption. So I'm going to read the skills on the left. If you guys want to go ahead and read on the right, you can. It's sort of my reasoning for why I think it's good, why it's effective, and why it's there. Okay? So this skill is going to steal 20 HP from one enemy and remove all enemy afflictions from Mangetsu. Now it's going to remove enemy afflictions from Mangetsu because of his third skill, which is a passive that only activates if Mangetsu hasn't taken damage for a turn. So let's say you had an affliction skill on yourself. If you were taking damage every turn from that affliction skill, your passive would never be able to activate. Hence why the skill removes affliction skills from Mangetsu. So, make sense? Alright. And also just, it's cool that he can steal health. I love that effect. I love Yoroi, so it's cool to put it on another character. So this one's kind of a doozy. So strap in, let's do this. So this is part A of our skill 2, Summoning Ninja Sword. So what this is going to do is Mangetsu is going to target himself or an ally. And he's going to grant them one of 7 randomly one of the ninja swords. So each ninja sword will have a passive effect that is permanent and is given to either Mangetsu or an ally. Okay? If Mangetsu targets a character already affected by this skill, they will have their current sword swapped out for a new one. So it's completely random, which seems like the only fair way to really do it. But it costs nothing. There's no cost, there's no cooldown. And if you don't get what you want, you can just keep spamming it, And if Mangetsu dies, it lasts, it stays around. Your person will always have their sword. You can't get rid of a sword. Once you have a sword, you always have a sword. Yeah, it's always a beneficial effect, though. And every character in the game will be able to use the effect. There's no sword that will give an effect that certain characters, it won't apply to them. It applies to every character in the game, the way I've set it up. So let's go over each sword. Okay? So these are not skills, these are passive effects. Okay? So this is skill 2, part B, Summoning Ninja Sword, passive effects, aka swords. So let's start off with Jinin Sword, Kabutawari. So a character with this sword destroys an enemy's destructible defense before dealing damage to them with all of their harmful skills. This effect has a cooldown of 1. If the skill they used happens to be AoE, only a primary target they select will receive this effect. So this sword is obviously like the sword and shield breaker, right? The ultimate defense breaker. It goes through defense. So, it just seemed kind of perfect to set it up where it will destroy an enemy's destructible defense before dealing damage to them. And that's a pretty powerful effect, so I did give this a cooldown of 1. Not every sword has a cooldown of 1 on its effect. So let's go now to Samehada, Kisame Sword. A character with this sword will steal 1 random chakra from an enemy with all of their harmful skills. This effect has a cooldown of 3. If the skill they used happens to be AoE, only a primary target they select will receive this effect. This one sort of speaks for itself, but it's fucking crazy strong. So it has a cooldown of 3, which is the highest cooldown of any of these effects that these swords have. Okay, let's move on to Kiba, which is Amayuri Sword. Swords, not sword, it's 2 swords. Swords. A character with this sword, or these swords, deals 5 piercing damage that affects all enemies every time they use a new harmful skill. No cooldown on that. So this would be good for like a 10-10 or a Hinata. It would be very effective on a character that, has very cheap costing skills but attacks a lot and is preferably even AoE. Imagine this on 10-10 or Hinata. That's just like a 5 damage boost to your AoE, 5 piercing damage boost to all your AoE. That's fucking good. No, but it's not good on like a Kakashi. You know, he has one big attack that's super slow and super costly. You're not going to get much use out of that, so you probably want to switch that sword out for something else. Okay, so, but you know, every character can use that. Alright, so now let's go on to Zabuza's sword. And I do not know how to pronounce that in Japanese, so I'm just going to say the guillotine sword, I think that's what it's called. Or guillotine beheader, something like that? Whatever. Anyway, a character with this sword gains 5 destructible defense for every 15 HP in a single turn that they cause an enemy to lose with all of their harmful skills. So sort of like, what is his name, Juzo? Sort of like his passive effect, but just like a miniature version of that. So yeah, which could apply to, you know, anyone. And no cooldown on that, you know, just pretty decent destructible defense gaining ability. Which, you know, it wouldn't be effective on like a, maybe it would. Never mind. It'd be effective on pretty much anyone. Except for characters that maybe dealt like 5 affliction damage stack at a time, but we don't really have any characters like that in this game, unfortunately. Add characters like that into this game, Zero. Okay. Next weapon will be Jinpachi's Shibuki. A character with the sword deals 15 bonus affliction damage with all of their harmful skills, and is dealt 15 affliction damage themselves. This effect has a cooldown of 1. If the skill they used happens to be AoE, only a primary target they select and themselves will receive this effect. So this sword is like the double-edged sword. You know, how I see it is like you give this sword that, you know, explodes to somebody who probably doesn't even know how to use the damn thing. They're going to hurt themselves when they use it. But, you know, it is going to hurt the enemy too. So this sword is the most effective one on Mangetsu. So if he gets this sword and he uses his only attack skill, which is his health steal, it will not deal damage to him. He will still gain 5 health and deal 15 bonus affliction damage. That is crazy good. So if you give this to like maybe a Yoroi, or, you know, just anyone who has like built-in sustain with their attacks, which is pretty rare, but yeah, definitely the most effective sword on this character. So he would want that for himself probably. So, and now let's move on to Kushimaru Sword, Nuibari. A character with the sword has all of the damage of their harmful skills become piercing, even affliction damage. If the skill already dealt piercing damage, it deals 5 bonus damage, and if it used to deal affliction damage, it deals 10 bonus damage. Fucking crazy good. You know, but you sort of do sacrifice your affliction damage to get that bonus 10, but that is fucking strong. I mean, this is definitely a very powerful sword. It might be one of the strongest ones. And it might even need a nerf. Well, we would have to see how it works in game, but I'm a little worried about this being a little OP, but without really like testing our numbers, we're not going to really know for sure if it is. So I'm just hoping that it wouldn't be, but just, you know, I'm going to mention now, before anybody comments or anybody says this character is OP because of this shit, trust me, it might be OP, you know, but we would have to test it to see. We don't know for sure how it would actually play out. Okay? Last one. And this is going to be Chojiro's sword, but before Chojiro, it was actually Mangetsu's sword. So he was the holder of this sword. So a character with this sword will fully stun an enemy skills with all of their harmful skills. This effect has a cooldown of 2. If the skill they used happens to be AoE, only a primary target they select will receive this effect. So, by the way, that if the skill happens to be AoE effect is there for a reason. If a lot of these effects applied AoE, they would be so insanely OP, this character would be beyond broken. So I just could not justify that. Plus, you're using a goddamn sword. So, I mean, how are you really going to hit more than one person at a time when you're slashing someone with a fucking sword? So, I mean, I know you can like cleave it in a wide arc, but come on, we don't need to be that specific about it. Anyway, so yeah, this will turn any character into a stunned character, which is fucking awesome. So it's a crazy strong effect though. So it has a cooldown of 2. So these are all the passive sword effects. I know this is a lot, but you know, once if it was in the game and these characters got sword effects one at a time, it wouldn't seem like so much as it probably does right now. You know, when you're looking at it one sword at a time, it's like okay, but when you look at them seven right there, it's got pretty lengthy text. It's like, damn, really? Trust me, it's really not that much. Next, skill 3, Reanimated Body. So I guess sort of wanted him to not have to focus too much on a lot of different skills. I wanted him to be able to cast his sword skill, you know, for no cost, no cooldown, and be able to, you know, just focus on that, getting people the swords that would work best for your situation. It is random, so it might take time, but, you know, I don't want him to be sitting there having to cast a bunch of different other skills, you know, to be able, because he needs to be focusing on getting people the right swords. When it's random, that's pretty much all you can do, you know? But if it was going in order, it would take just as long, if not even longer, to get the swords you would need. Because if you needed the sword at the very end, you would have to go through 7 fucking casts, you know? So random just seems like you have the best chances of getting people what they need more often than not. And hopefully, at least. I hope that's how it would feel. But it's, you know, but it still doesn't matter because every sword can be used on every character. So no matter what sword they have, it's not like they're not going to be able to use it. They can use it. So this is why he has a passive effect here, because I don't want him to be able to focus on using a lot of different skills. And then obviously he has one attack, that's it. Okay. Then he's got this skill, but he has a passive here. So if Mangetsu has less than 100 HP and is not taking new enemy damage for 1 turn, he will begin healing 5 HP that increases by 5 each turn, which stacks until he reaches 100 HP. This skill ends if Mangetsu receives new enemy damage. So, if he's not taking damage from people, he'll slowly start regenerating his health. So, you know, it's a little dangerous for the enemy to leave him alone once they've, you know, got his health down. But this also opens up a lot of opportunities for you using teams with like Iruka maybe, you know, like making him invuln so his healing will start. Iruka, Mangetsu, Kakashi S, you know, then you have a permanent invuln pretty much on Mangetsu if he gets low enough, and then you can just focus on getting them their swords. I don't know. I can think of a lot of combos where this would be, even though it is passive, it would bring a lot of interesting gameplay. You know, it's dynamic. It allows, there's interaction with it, you know? Your enemy has to directly interact with it even though it is passive. So, I like that. I think that's interesting. Last skill is Careful Guard. And it's just a regular invuln skill, so there's really nothing special to see here. We all know what this is. So, this is my Mangetsu Hozuki, my personal favorite character I've ever created. I hope you guys like it. And please comment, like, and subscribe. Drop or you can click the bell icon so you can get new updates as to when my videos release. It helps me out a lot, guys. I would really appreciate it if you could just like the video, because we are growing fast and I want to be able to reach more Naruto-Arena players. So anyway, thanks for watching. It's been your boy Kito. I've got a big list of videos I want to work on, so things are coming. Do not fret. I'm not going to be taking more breaks, I swear. All right. Thanks, guys. Peace and bye.